Welcome to another edition of the PhinManiacs.com podcast. We are live on a Monday night. It's 8 o'clock, and we are here to talk some more Miami Dolphins football. I am joined tonight by Carlos Hernandez and Chad Ronnebaum, who was here just a moment ago, and he'll be back soon, I'm sure. And we're also joined by, there's Chad, and we are also joined by our special guest, Antoine Staley. He's the Miami Dolphins reporter for Pro Player Insiders. Guys, it's nice to have you guys on tonight.
Good evening, good evening.
So basically we're going to talk what we're expected to talk about, really. We're going to talk about reviewing the Chicago Bears game, what did we like there, what did we did not like to see, and we're also going to talk about stuff that's been happening in training camp. And like me, Antoine has been there every single day watching what's happened, giving his reports. He's been keeping an eye on everything that's been going on just like I have, and he's got some interesting things to say as well. And we're also going to do some quick previews of the Chicago Bears stuff. I'm sorry, not the Chicago Bears, the Carolina Panthers, and we're going to be doing a quick preview of what we expect to see there, as well as the practices that are going to be going up there as well. So I'm going to start things off by talking about the Chicago Bears game, and it was after the first drive, it was ugly, but the first drive was a thing of beauty. Tannehill marched down the field with his first team offense. He took on Jordan Cameron, got into the end zone. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking the scrimmage now.
Landry.
That was Landry. Landry scored the touchdown. I'm sorry. My brain has been everywhere today. There's so much stuff to talk about and so much stuff to do. So the Chicago Bears defense had no answer for the Dolphins' first team offense. They ran up the field. Lamar Miller had an awesome run. Tannehill he was sharp, he was quick, he knew what he was doing. And if this is indicative of what's going to happen in the regular season, I for one am extremely pumped. The offensive line did not really have much of an issue dealing with Jared Allen and Pernell McPhee, who were supposed to shore up the Bears' pass rushing, but that didn't really happen so much because Tannehill seemed to have plenty of time to throw, and that's actually pretty surprising considering that the starting guards are still Dallas Thomas and the apparently very much so maligned Billy Turner. And it's funny because it's true. It's like every time in your mentions, Antoine, it's like, Billy Turner, he's not worth it. We didn't wasted a third-round draft pick on him. Oh, no, wait, fourth round. Dallas Thomas was
third round, yeah. No, they're both third rounds, yes.
They're both third-rounders, that's right. So you see all these people that are dissing these offensive linemen, but then you see them perform against the Bears, and that gave them a real confidence boost. And hey, against Ndamukong Suh and those guys, you need every ounce of confidence you can get your hands on. So just watching them do that and watching the first team offense march down the field like it was no big deal, even despite the couple of holding penalties, I'm really excited about what I saw, and I personally think that this offense can do really well, but I'm going to have to wait and see what happens when they face tougher competition in Carolina. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What did you like from do you have anything specific in mind when you think about what did you like to see from the Miami Dolphins' first preseason game against the Chicago Bears?
I guess I'll go then, since nobody else is going to go.
Yeah.
All right, I like just the poise of Ryan Tannehill. I thought he was just kind of cool and collective. Not that he's never been a guy that's been rattled or anything like that, but he just looked a lot more confident, and he's stepping up in the pocket, making throws. It looked like just a different, confident team, which I've been saying throughout camp. This is a different aura with this team. Like, it's a lot more loose locker room. I don't know if it's because the player changes or whatnot, but they look really good. And I thought the offensive line did a solid job. Obviously, it'd be better once Brandon Albert gets back and healthy. But I thought Billy Turner and Dallas Thomas they did a solid. All they needed to do was be average. That's all you really want those guys to be. They don't need to be all-pro guards. So I thought overall, it was great. What I didn't like, obviously, everything that happened after the first quarter. Like, it was just, especially the second half, it just got completely ugly. Like, it just that's one of the worst displays of football I've seen, like, in a while, like in preseason games. So it was just really bad. I will say this: the depth of the Dolphins' defensive line is really good. Obviously, you got Terrence Fede, who I also really like. Derek Shelby, but other than that, it's not a lot to take from that as far as what happened in the second half. But overall, the first drive looked really impressive. So that's really why I was impressed in Tannehill.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We hear you, Carlos.
Oh, okay. I thought I was having a problem with my mic there for a second.
No,
Sorry about that, guys.
no, it's all good, man.
What I like the most, like you mentioned it earlier, the line didn't look too overwhelmed. Granted, the Bears' defensive line is not what it used to be, but you just still have the Jared Allen. They moved to the 3-4 now, which to me was a little bit surprising considering they do have Jared Allen. But Billy Turner held his own. Dallas Thomas, looked great. When I rewatched the film, I watched pretty much the O-line the whole time. Another thing that stood out to me, and we wrote about it on PhinManiacs, was the play of Vigil. He kind of looked like he was in command out there. Even a little bit, and I hope this is not premature in saying it, but even just a little bit of action he saw, I kind of feel more confident having him at the middle than Coe. I mean, it's his natural position. He played, middle linebacker, so that stood out to me. Will Davis had some plays out there, which was encouraging as well. But overall, the offensive line stood out the most. They held their own.
As far as I'm concerned, man, the Will Davis thing, it's kind of I don't really know what to think about Will Davis. It's like one day he'll be making a really dumb mistake that's going to ruin everything, and then he'll be making ball hawking moves like he does. He's a very aggressive cornerback, but it's only useful when he is behind his receiver and he can jump a route. If he has to be chasing him or he's in coverage or something like that and he has to turn his hips around, that's when it becomes a problem. That's been evident all throughout camp as usual.
Yeah, I kind of been I go a lot with my gut. You know what I mean? We're fans here. We're trying to do our best with the analysis and everything. But from the beginning of camp, I thought that Davis was going to be the odd man out. I know they spent a good decent draft pick on him and everything, and you don't want to lose your position because of injury is what they usually say. But with the emergence of the McCains. I really think that he might be the odd man out. But who knows? Tannenbaum likes to keep all those corners, and he always says, never can have enough too many corners. But, I'm with you, Lewis. It's either feast or famine with this guy.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I just want to check on my mic there. Yeah, I agree with you, Carlos, on Will Davis. He always has been a little bit of a risk taker, but I still he's looking better and better physically. He tore an ACL if my memory's right, so I don't know that he's 100% back yet, but I think he's having to get in there and compete anyway because it is a dogfight right now, and they're at the cornerback position, and Will Davis is probably competing with one or two guys for a spot, and with some of the younger guys like Bobby McCain and Lippett, I mean they're looking like they have a lot of upside to them, so I have to assume that Will Davis is really feeling the pressure right now to compete, and I think that tends, especially for a younger player, to make them maybe want to take a few more risks at times to try to get a pick or just stand out. So it'll be interesting to see as we get into 2 or 3 more preseason games. I expect Miami they'll work him pretty hard to see how he holds up.
You have any thoughts on Will Davis, Antoine?
I think that as far as him concerned, he's been inconsistent in camp. Every day I've seen him, and really gotten outplayed by some of the other corners. Yeah, and the Dolphins are really giving him a lot. They're really, what I can see as far as like what I've seen in training camp, they're really attacking him and it's really challenging him to see what he can do. And just he hasn't lived up to the challenge. Like he just been behind routes and out of position and things of that nature. So. Yeah, I think he definitely needs to step up some of his game. The rest of the young the rest of the young defensive backs. I mean, it's not like I like Tony Lippett. He has a lot of potential as far as athleticism, but he's a very raw talent, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do as far as all those cornerbacks are concerned. So. Like it's only one game, they don't have to make, it's a while, it's a little bit. You got a few more games until the cut period, so I'm looking forward to seeing those guys. That's another position I'll be looking at on Saturday when they play the Panthers.
And that's the thing, though, is that you see all these corners and you see all this competition going on, and people always have this idea of who is the best guy for the job. You see guys like Some people are like Jamar Taylor should be the number one outside boundary. That's my thing. I think he should be the guy opposite Brent Grimes. Some people think that Will Davis and his ball hawking ways would be the best choice. Some people want Bryce McCain because he's just the other best corner that we have besides Grimes. And you could make that argument, even though his specialty is actually in the slot.
Slot. So, yeah, he's more slot. Yeah, that's why if you want to, I think you would want to keep him in the slot and just have Jamar Taylor over there on the other side. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
But that's.
I agree with Antoine. I don't think Will Davis is even in the running to be a starting corner opposite of Brett Grimes right now. I think I think they're playing around a little bit between Bryce McCain and Jamar Taylor, and I think Taylor will still probably win that battle. But they're both capable cover guys. I do think Jamar Taylor is a far superior player in run support to Will Davis or Bryce McCain. That's why I think they'll keep him in there. But either way, in today's NFL, you have three corners on the field so frequently, it really doesn't matter. I think Bryce McCain, Jamar Taylor, and obviously Brent Grimes will be in there the majority of the time. The real question is how are they going to manage these young guys? Because I don't know that they can. There's some serious talent there. I mean, Bob McCain has really flashed. Tony Lippett has flashed, and so will they be able to sneak some of those guys onto the practice squad? I mean, they're going to have to consider that, or do they feel like, they're going to have to protect those guys and keep them on the active roster and, maybe go with extra corners, or maybe they're going to have to let some veterans go. So that's going to be a real competitive position going into these Carolina game and the rest of the preseason.
And but like I was saying, it's like you see all these guys, and everybody kind of fits a different mold. It's not like everybody is like fighting for one spot. There's this one guy who'd be better at the cornerbacks, the outside boundary guy. There's someone who'd be better at, say, doing the slot corners. You got to kind of pick and choose where you want these guys to go. Bobby McCain is obviously being groomed to be the slot cornerback, and he's got a lot of talent. And that much cannot be denied. But the issue here is that it's more along the lines of he's too aggressive. And I don't like to say that because having an aggressive corner is a good thing. You see how Darrelle Revis made his career. But he got called for how many times? He got called for holding like 4 times.
Yeah.
Like you can't get caught doing that kind of stuff. That's just not going to fly no matter where you are. So you either have to kind of figure out a way to balance what you do, or you're going to wind up getting pummeled because you're not going to be able to last in the NFL if you're going to keep making stupid calls like that. That's the same kind of stuff that made fans start to hate on Jimmy Wilson. People hate on Jimmy Wilson a lot, but truth be told, I liked Jimmy Wilson for a really long time, and it was because I loved the effort and the passion he brought into the game. Did he always make the play? Often the times, no, he didn't. But I could see that he wanted to be great. He wanted to do it. So I personally, I think he can be really good, but he's got to learn to tone it down. He's got to be able to figure out how to turn himself down so that he's actually an effective corner, not just an aggressive corner.
Yeah, it's smart. You can be aggressive, but you have to do it very intelligent. Like when you're out of position, like you're out of position, like you don't try to do something, just stupid. Like his aggression is just, it's not very smart at what he's doing. Like the call and the plays that he's making, that's the biggest thing with me. Yeah, I like aggression as far as cornerbacks, but I just don't feel like he's doing it at the right moments. That's my biggest thing with him.
Yeah, that's
you guys are talking about Bobby McCain, right? Just to clarify. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to check.
Yes.
Well, that was another thing that stood out to me in the game. You guys mentioned now with the calls. That's not usually indicative of a Philbin team. One of the least penalized teams in the league last year, and then it was a dirty game in my opinion. It seemed like the laundry was all over the place. And not just with your backup players in the later quarters. I mean, on that first drive, you had holding call on Turner and I believe there was another holding call as well. I forgot who the player was, but yeah, they need to clean that stuff up.
Yeah, and sometimes the preseason, they were notoriously doing this last year. They were really picky on the defensive holding calls, and I think they're trying to make a point that they're wanting to make it a less grabby, for the upcoming season. But I don't think watching the film that was the case too much this preseason. I mean, like Turner's he basically just grabbed the guy's leg because he was beat. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
blatant. But it's with Bobby McCain, you just got to keep in mind he's a rookie, and I think you have to learn in the NFL that if you get put out of position, you get turned around and stuff like that. It's not college anymore, and you can't get away with a little bit of a grab here. They'll nail you, and once you've been caught, then they're watching you even closer, and so that's when you can start to break down. But I'll be surprised if early on you see much Bobby McCain actually playing in the season. I think they're not projecting that. They're basically develop him to be possibly the slot corner going into next year or down the road. But unless there's like an injury or something like that, I don't think it's like we're going to have to worry about Bobby McCain going up against Tom Brady or anything like that anytime soon, because he clearly needs to work. But that's a real common thing with rookie corners, trying to learn the rules, getting comfortable with when to turn your head around on deep balls, and the timing on when to jump routes, and how aggressive you can be and get away with. So it'll take time. I mean, I think it's rare that rookie corners can play in the NFL. It's just it happens here and there, but usually it's out of desperation or necessity. It's not a common thing.
And that's all I'm saying, guys. So I also guys, I have to bring this up because we have to kind of harp on this a little more, because this is really important. It's probably the most important thing that anybody's actually looking at. The Miami Dolphins offensive line, I understand it was just the Chicago Bears, and I understand that they haven't been the Bears for a very long time. 'Cause the Bears, how long ago was it? I'm like the youngest guy here. So when was the last time that the Bears' claim to fame was their defense?
Probably when they had Urlacher.
2000, about 10 years ago.
Yeah, they had.
Yeah.
That's right. They probably had a top 5 10 years ago, but it's been declining. Oh, the whole team. I mean, I'm not a Bears hater by any stretch, but the reality is the whole team just hasn't been competitive for quite a while.
They got old. They got old. Urlacher got old, and Lance Briggs, and Charles Tillman, and the defense just got old, and they have to change some parts out and get young on the defense, and now they're trying to go from a 4-3 to a 3-4, which is what John Fox loves. So that's going to take some transition. They don't have the right personnel in there right now exactly for the Bears. So I think it's going to take some time. But hey, it's not the Dolphins' fault that the Bears are not necessarily a good defense. You play whoever's on the schedule, and you line it up, and you do what you have to do.
Yeah, and I'm not a big, I saw that all over the place, like, oh, but it was the Bears, oh, but it was the Bears. That's an NFL team, and those are high caliber players, and so it'd be much, much more concerning if the Bears defensive line just blew Miami's offensive line up, because then you're like, wow, that's not the Jets, that's not the Bills, or get dominated. So you would expect Miami to have a good showing, and it gives you a little bit of a feeling that, look, the guard play in Miami isn't horrific. We're not playing the 2 worst starting guards in the league right now. And so that kind of showed that, we may struggle a little bit going up against, Buffalo and the Jets, because they've got really high level D tackles. But it isn't like the guard play and tackle play and stuff on our line is that bad. That's, I guess, the point to be taken away from it.
But let me ask you guys this: do you think that watching Billy Turner and Dallas Thomas do well against these Bears, do you think that's how many? Let me ask it this way, actually: how many defensive lines that we're going to face on the schedule actually scare you? Not counting Buffalo and New York, because those are obvious. If you're not scared of Buffalo and New York, then you're delirious.
Houston.
Jacksonville too, because a lot of people don't know this about Jacksonville. They finished top 5 in sacks last year, so that's the one thing the Jaguars can do is put pressure on the quarterback. So I would say Jacksonville. That's another wild card in there, but definitely Houston.
Yeah, obviously J.J. Watt's in there, and Clowney will be back, so Houston's gonna be strong. But in Jacksonville, I mean, what is that guy's name? They have a D tackle in there. Derek something, I want to say. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of pulling out of memory, but he blew us up last year. I mean, they were losing that battle last year against Jacksonville. So and not pushovers. So it's one of those things where you just got to keep in mind the guards are young. Billy Turner hasn't played a full season yet, and as I watched him, I kind of watched him close on that Bears film, and I do think Billy Turner physically is quite a bit superior to Dallas Thomas. I think he's stronger, and he can get away with maybe not being quite so fundamentally sound on his technique. If he doesn't get his butt down low enough and some of his pass blocks, he's got enough strength in his upper body to kind of make up for it. So I really think he's going to be just fine. You're going to see him make some mistakes. I'm more worried about that, like missing a blitz or getting confused on a stunt and then missing a block that way. Dallas Thomas, on the other hand, and you can tell they've put a ton of work into him. He is a much better guard than he is a tackle. He always has been, and he actually is very good at pulling and trapping and things like that. That's just physically, I just don't know if he's stout enough to maintain bull rushing D tackles on him play after play. And so I'm really still, even though he's got the starting position right now, I think Douglas, in the long term, they're going to be better off trying to get him up to speed quicker, because that guy's he's a physical tank. He's very strong for a guard. And so I'd feel a lot better when we're playing those teams you're talking about, Lewis. When we're playing Houston, we're playing Buffalo, we're playing the Jets, that we have a guy that we know physically, just it's a question whether he can hold up.
Yeah, you talking about Cedric March. That's the guy you were looking for Jacksonville.
Yeah, we had a really tough time handling him in the game last year, that Jacksonville game. And so, yeah, I think you're right in that they're not going to be easy to move around in there for our interior.
And I'm going to say this, Antoine, I get what you're saying about the Jacksonville being underrated, but the reason I'm not so scared of Jacksonville and, of course, the likes of Washington is that Washington, their defense is not really all that, and now that the Redskins have lost their starting tight end, that's one less weapon for RG3 to utilize. And this may sound cold, but really all you have to do is get Ndamukong Suh to hit RG3 just right, and he's going to fall down like a ton of bricks. So that'll be the end of Robert Griffin III if Suh gets his hands on him. And as for Jacksonville, well, their offense is basically non-existent. So far is not a good quarterback. I haven't really seen much of anything from him, and I also haven't heard any mention of him since training camp opened up. So either that means he is doing okay and nobody's bringing it up, or he's just not even worth mentioning because he's not doing anything good enough to warrant noticing. So either way, that's going to give them trouble, because the Jaguars need to score points, and even if you have one of the greatest defenses in the NFL, if you can't score, it's not really going to help unless your defense is scoring points for you.
Oh, I agree with you. I'm just saying, their pass rush is something that you have to be aware of. That's all I was saying. I didn't say, I wasn't saying that, the Dolphins would, necessarily have problems with. I'm just saying going in, that's something you have to, 45 sacks. The team gets 45 sacks. That's something, you have to be aware of, just going into the game. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm not accusing you of saying the Dolphins are going to lose or anything. Don't worry about that. Anybody who predicts the Dolphins to lose the first two games really needs to chill out, because Washington is not scary. The only thing that might get Washington to win is if that home crowd is really as pumped up as Andrew Abelson keeps telling me. It's it's the home opener.
Oh,
it's the season opener. They're going to be hyped up and they're going to be screaming at the top of their lungs. And I get that. I'll buy that.
I've been there. I grew up in North Carolina, as most people know. At one point in time, it was Redskin country, so that was the closest team to us. So actually, my first NFL game was there, in that stadium. So it's loud, it's huge, it's absolutely a huge stadium, and I'm not saying that this is a game the Dolphins should win. Let's just be real about that. I think everybody would agree with that going in. But we also know the Dolphins have traditionally lose games that they should win. So, but it's a game on paper they should definitely get the job done. Obviously, they're a superior team to the Redskins. So I don't think a home crowd should have anything to do with that. But yeah, it's loud. It's a loud place to play. I will say that.
Well, you got the quote unquote best quarterback in the league, right? You got to be careful.
RG3 was doing so good keeping his mouth shut, and then he had to say something stupid like that. Come on, man. Have you not been paying attention to your own play recently? You're not a good quarterback. your knee went down, and that was the end of RG3. Now you're just Robert Griffin III, whose dad needs to stay out of the locker room and stop defending you all the time.
I think it's what he's trying to do. Even though I know we're getting off topic, I think he's just kind of conditioning himself, just kind of mentally, to think he's like that. Everybody knows he's not the best quarterback in the league. I mean, he hadn't been, RG3 since his rookie year, but I just think he's trying to build his own confidence up. That's what I think he's trying to do.
That's a super valid point, and I would probably tend to agree with that. But do it in front of the mirror. You know what I'm saying? Do it in front of the mirror. You just know that people are just waiting to pounce on any little thing that you're gonna say, even remotely close to that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just kind of adds fuel to the fire, in my opinion. Keep it to yourself.
That's the problem, is that a lot of these players, they recently don't know when to keep their mouth shut and when to keep it, and when to say the canned answers that they always give us. I don't mind the canned answers. That means you're doing a good job of keeping your mouth shut and staying out of trouble. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what the Dolphins teach young athletes how to do. Now, like, I was there when they did the rookie symposium and they did all the high school media day. Now remember, kids, here's how you do it. Do not say anything that could turn into a big story, because every time you turn something into a big story, that means it's going to look bad on you. And RG3, he stepped in it big time this time, because you can't say stuff like, I'm the best quarterback, when it's painfully obvious that you're not. You're actually one of the worst. And by the way, Anton, don't worry about getting off topic. That's what we do here. We're all friends here. We just talk. If we want to go off and talk about cinnamon rolls or something, we're going to go ahead and do it.
Well, I hope his knee is feeling good, because he's gonna need it. Because the way Sue was looking on that first play, he's ready to go like yesterday.
That guy, yeah. A quick story. He came into the press room today. Me and Andrew Aberson, we were just like, oh God, what is he doing in here? We kind of got a little nervous, because like it came out of nowhere. He was still in his practice jersey coming into the press room, and I'm like, is he looking for somebody?
He's looking for you.
No, he wasn't looking for me.
Anton?
No, he wasn't looking for me. No, actually, he's looking for a kid to kind of sign his autographs and stuff like that. I guess he's supposed to be be what the team store is, and he just happened to come in there for some reason. I don't know why. But
it was fun.
It was a scary. It was a scary thought.
I was having fun on Twitter. I was like, I'll show you a blank stare, Omar. He's a menacing looking guy. Sue is. There's nothing about it.
That picture, man, has turned into something incredible. It's turned into stuff. It's turned into stuff that's maybe has crossed the line a little bit. I'm a little wowed by. Oh my God! Somebody turned that picture into something.
People were going out. Yeah, people were definitely crossing the line with that picture. Like, I could even retweet some of the stuff that was going out. So.
Was anybody in the media giving him a hard time about it, Antoine?
No, nobody said anything to that man. You let that man go wherever he needs to do, whatever he needs to do. You let him. Had we had food in there and he would have took the sandwiches, I wouldn't have said anything. Like, he can do what he wants, like, anytime. Like, I'm not saying anything.
Take it right away from him. Say, you don't mess with us in here.
Let him do whatever he wants to. He can go wherever he needs to go. Like, I'm not saying anything.
I was referring to Omar.
Oh, you're talking about Omar. I thought you were talking about
he wasn't even here. Yeah, he wasn't even here today. Funny story.
Okay.
Like,
Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
He needed but some of that stuff was nuts, man. So you gotta it's all fun and games until it suddenly crosses a line.
For sure.
Because I'm sure that Omar's wife did not appreciate that picture.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
I didn't even follow it. I know the picture you're talking about where they got him sleeping at training camp or whatever, but I haven't seen anything other than just the picture, like, fun. But I hope nobody was being out of bounds.
There was some out of bounds stuff. So
I saw some out of bounds stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna say any names, but yeah, I saw some out of bounds stuff.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, see, this is what we talk about being off topic, Antoine. We just kind of talk around here. So here we go. Oh my God, I forgot what we were talking about. What were we talking about again?
The Bears.
The game on last Thursday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Bears. That's what we're talking about. So wait, we talked about. We already talked about what we liked. So what do we? Okay, what did we not like? Let's try. Since we know we already didn't like everything past the first drive, let's try and pick something in particular that we didn't like.
I got one for you. I was disappointed in the play of Matt Moore.
Oh yeah.
I expected a better game out of him because he was playing with some pretty solid players around him yet, the line and the skill players and stuff, and he just didn't look very sharp against the Bears. And so, I mean, it makes me a little nervous to think, wow, they're still, even though it's not like a crazy contract, he's paid a pretty high premium to be the backup. And so I wonder at times, if Tannehill were to go down for an extended period of time, would they still be able to be a competitive team with Matt Moore? So I'm hoping to see in the next couple preseason games that he cleans it up, but I would have expected him to be a lot more efficient, I guess.
Yeah, he hasn't played well in training camp at all. Like, I can definitely tell you that. Like, he just, made some interceptions, overthrown some players. Like, he's really had a tough camp. I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah, his play, how you saw how he played on Thursday night was indicative of how he's played in training camp throughout for the most part.
Well, that's been the knock on him, right, throughout his career, that he's a terrible practice player, and then put him in the game, he's a gamer. Is that what they say?
That's pretty much how it works with him.
Yeah. Yeah, some guys are just not practice guys, and like he's never been one.
I think the main thing that stood out to me, and I think I heard one of the beat writers mention this or whatever, or maybe it was even Omar. The lack of the lack of depth that it was is perceived now based on the way they played against the Bears reserves. It was a pretty significant drop off in the play the other night when the reserves went in there. What did you guys think about that?
I mean, look, again, I have to give these guys a break because while we were throwing in MBT and Josh Freeman out there to play quarterback, their primary backup stayed in the rest of the game after Cutler went out. So it's not like we were facing a third-string, fourth-string quarterback who was just barely getting his feet wet in the NFL. Clausen, for better or worse, has been a backup quarterback for a very long time, and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to play the game. So it's kind of unfair, I think, to assume that our third-string, fourth-string players can deal with a veteran who knows how to deal with these kids who are still wet behind the ears.
What I usually look for is the situations, and so I mean, if you have a rookie or a veteran that are pretty confident are going to make the team, I always just anticipate you may not be getting their very best football because they're being a little cautious not to get hurt, because you don't need to light up the scoreboard in the preseason if you're just trying to get yourself fundamentally ready. The players that really look at are the bubble players, because you're expecting them to be performing at the very best possible. And, when you see not doing well, that's when you got to wonder, well, would they really do well, if you had to rely upon them. And, I mentioned Matt Moore, but Anthony Johnson, the defensive tackle, from LSU, he had a rough game mentally. He jumped off sides 2 times in a row, and they actually pulled him. And he went in and he did it yet again. And so I thought he's playing a position right now at D tackle where you already know that Sue and Jordan Phillips and Earl Mitchell are already locked in as the top 3, and AJ Francis had a pretty solid game. He was moving around pretty well for a big guy, making plays, and that leaves CJ Mosley in the mix even. And so I didn't think Anthony Johnson could afford to do what he did in that game, because I thought he might have lost a little bit of ground, because I don't know that they're going to keep more than 40 tackles, definitely no more than 5, and so he's right in that range right now where he may not make the team.
And I don't know when it was, but correct me if I'm wrong, Antoine, because I didn't think that Mosley had done anything special before the scrimmage, and then suddenly he's with the second team. Like, up until that point, he'd been with the third team, fourth team with Anthony Johnson, and then suddenly the day of the scrimmage, he's promoted to second team, and that's where he's been ever since. I don't understand what exactly happened there.
I don't either. Maybe he just, for me, it's something the light bulb just turned on, because he was really in danger of being cut. Like, I thought, definitively, I was like, CJ, we talked about this, we talked to the other reporters and stuff like that. Yeah, we thought he was in danger of being cut. And then ever since the scrimmage, his play has really improved. So if he continues to play the way he is, he'll probably find a spot on a team, which, of course, doesn't bode well for A.J. Francis or Anthony Johnson as well. Dolphins have like they're just an embarrassment of riches at the defensive line position. Like it's going to be some. These guys are going to get picked up by somebody because the Dolphins they're just that deep at the defensive line position that I'm not saying these guys can't play in the league. They're just not going to have a spot here.
Oh, I agree. I think all the guys you mentioned will make a team. I mean, some of those guys might be playing, on some of the deals. They might start for the Bears, for example.
And if you know the Patriots like very well, you know how Belichick is.
No.
He'll
sign up to learn.
He'll sign them real quick.
Don't do that to me, Antoine. I don't want to hear about how he's going to join.
Being honest. I'm just being honest.
I know. It's like, New England, why do you steal all our players?
Belichick. I was making a joke on Twitter. I'm like, Belichick's going to grab that linebacker that broke Geno Smith's jaw right away because he's just going to use him just to play against the Jets, but Rex Ryan beat him to it.
Rex beat him for good. I'm waiting for the Geno Smith trade.
For those
no,
teams.
I'm sorry. Who was it? I'm waiting for the Mark Sanchez trade. Rex will bring Mark Sanchez to Buffalo.
Yeah, there you go. The Sanchez to Buffalo. On Mosley is he is a league veteran minimum player, so it's not like they're paying him several $1 million to come in. He's more of a minimum, and this kind of the same can be said for AJ Francis and AJ Johnson. They're both low paid, so I don't think any of them are in danger of imminently being cut. It's just whether or not they'll make that final 53 when it gets down to it, because you kind of want to keep them even if they're lower in the depth chart because they're still capable players. And so, if you have an injury in the second or third preseason game and say, Earl Mitchell has a severe knee injury or something, you wouldn't want to cut him now. But, I guess the point I was making is I think Anthony Johnson, CJ Mosley, and AJ Francis, one of those guys for sure isn't staying, maybe two. So you would really be expecting them to almost dominate if they're playing against, second, third string offensive linemen. They should be looking dominant. And so if they're not, that's concerning.
Well, it's weird because I didn't understand the switch up to Mosley when he wound up there. Like suddenly Mosley's the second team. I'm like, wait, what happened? But ever since then, it's like it's almost as if the article I wrote about him suddenly turned him on or something. It's like, oh, there's Mosley, because up until that point he'd been terrible, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, he's one of the best defensive tackles the Dolphins have just based on his performance. He's beaten Mike Pouncey one-on-one, and I think he did that today. So it's like, okay, where did this come from? He went from 0 to hero in 2.5 seconds.
Well, one of the things you don't see, as a spectator is you don't know what their assignments are in different schemes. And so I think sometimes what people don't see is they just see an impact play or the talent, but they don't realize that this guy's not understanding where he needs to be at times if they're trying to run a stun or what they're trying to do. I mean, usually it's not that complicated from the D-tackle standpoint, but I think that's why you see depth chart moves sometimes where you don't see it from a playmaking standpoint. It's just you don't realize that they're not getting certain things.
Let's take a minute to welcome Jeff Hyde into the show. He's another friend of the show. He's with the PhinManiacs. He's usually he's one of our draft gurus, and he's here to talk some Dolphins football. Jeff, nice to have you here with us, man.
Hey, good to be here. Long time no talk.
Yeah, not since the draft.
Yeah, right. It's been a long off season for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. So, now that you're here, let's ask you real quick. What did you like about the Chicago Bears? And point out one thing you really liked, and point out one thing you really didn't like so much.
Well, I had the opportunity to look at it multiple times. I watched it live, and then I took another peek at it the other day on NFL's awful service, the Game Pass. But at first glance, I mean, the thing that stuck out obviously was the first team offense, first team defense, pretty much lights out everything we wanted to see. And then, what I didn't like was the downhill after that. The second quarter, it dragged, and then the opening drive of the third quarter was really bad at the end of the third quarter, and the fourth quarter were just awful by the second and third team. So the second time around, I took a deep look at the defensive line and the linebackers. I really wanted to see Jordan Phillips in action. I think he was impressive, but there are also some things that he could have done. He really didn't use his hands as well as I thought he would, but he is a monster on the defensive line. And then Zach Vigil was really performing. He's kind of the only guy that I was impressed with in the second half of the game. So those are it was good to watch some of the new guys in action, and I got a second peek. But not too impressed overall with the second and third teams.
I like that you brought up Zach Vigil because he was like one of the only bright spots on the whole second and third team. This kid has come out of nowhere, and people are starting to compare him to Zach Thomas. And I want people to pump the brakes on that because there may never be another Zach Thomas.
No.
So,
yeah, he's a long way from that, but he definitely was impressed. But you've got to remember he's going against second and third team guys too, so. He really stuck out though. When I watched him the second time, he was everywhere on the screen. He did everything well. He covered well. He made open field tackles. He had a big goal line stop there too. So I was impressed.
I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. The Vigil. I'm already starting to politic because I'm kind of a negative Kelvin Shepherd fan. Not as a person, I just don't think he has very good coverage range, and I don't think he has very good sideline to sideline speed.
He doesn't.
I've been thinking that Vigil has the opportunity to be the backup Mike to Koomisi, and so I really think he does. I don't think Mike Hull can do it. I don't think he's big enough. I think you're going to see Mike Hull be more backing up Jelani Jenkins, kind of going up against Tripp right now, depending on when Tripp gets back. They're kind of over there, and then my personal opinion is I would like to see them, and they actually have been doing that in practice the last couple of days. I'd like to see him put Vigil in there, maybe in a first-team situation, and see how he performs. Because, if they lose a linebacker, in particular Koomisi or McCain, you got to wonder, wouldn't the best next alternative be to move Misi over to the strong side and put Vigil in the middle? And so that's really a formation I'm curious about.
Well, you're assuming that it's Shepard that's going to get hurt then, right? Because Shepard's not going to get unseated.
If Chris McCain gets hurt, you move Koomisi over to the strong side and you put Vigil in, or if Koomisi gets hurt in the middle, you bring Vigil in as the backup. I think he could be the backup middle linebacker that has some good upside to him. So I'm really hoping to see him be able to do that. I got a good look at him there when I was down in Miami, a couple of days ago, and he's pretty impressive physically. He's bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah.
And so I know he's not as big and thick as like Luke is, but watching them do the pass drills where the linebackers cover the running backs. And it looked to me like Vigil had pretty good quickness and range. I mean, unfortunately, Luke, although he's a monster and a great run defender, I just don't think he has the speed to cover out very far into the zone in the middle. And so when you get into these games with guys like Brady, I mean, they immediately exploit with the ranges of your middle linebacker, with the plays they use with the tight ends and backs. And so I feel like Vigil has the speed to be able to really help on containment. So we'll see.
He has the containment. He has all the skills he needs. It just is a matter of I want to see what he can do against the first teamers because he's been getting some snaps in camp with the first teamers. However, as much as I would like to believe that he'll get the shot, Chad, I'm pretty sure the Dolphins are set with Kelvin Shepherd being the middle linebacker. I don't like it any more than you do, but it looks like they're going to go with the veteran before they let Vigil get in there. Remember what it took for Jelani Jenkins to get the chance to play. If Donnell Ellerbe hadn't gotten hurt, if Ellerbe hadn't gotten injured, then we would have never seen what Jenkins can do. Somehow I get the feeling that it would have to lose Misi and Shepard in order for Vigil to get a real opportunity to play, and then we can see what he does. And then maybe he would get to start, so who knows? That's kind of the way the Dolphins do things. It's kind of a next man up mentality. We're going to put our projected starter out there, and then if he gets hurt, then we'll give somebody else a shot.
Yeah, it's way too early for to be handing out, a starting position for Vigil, but he definitely earned a look with the ones in the preseason. I mean, we'll put him in with the ones against Carolina, see what he can do. Sink or swim, really. He's an undrafted free agent. It really can't hurt to take a look at him, see what we really have, and put him out there against good competition. It really won't hurt.
Oh, it's a great matchup, too. I mean, I guarantee you'll see this if they do it. They'll be protecting him, but I'd like to see Vigil try to run Cam Newton down if he takes off and stuff, because that's an extremely athletic quarterback. I mean, Cam Newton will run right around Kelvin Shepherd. He's just too fast. And
he'll run right around Vigil too, man. Cam Newton's no slow.
I don't know that he will or not. So he's a great athlete, but that's what you want to see. You want to see, if they have him spying on Cam Newton, as the linebacker, and he takes off. I want to see how well he defends him.
And keep in mind, this is the preseason, so he's not going to get a whole lot of chances to chase down Cam Newton. I'm sure that the Panthers are going to be looking to protect their quarterback.
yeah. They're not, yeah. Especially with their offensive line in Carolina, they don't have the best line, so yeah, I can't imagine they would put him out there for him to suffer an injury. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
So here's the question that I have now: is it a liability or is it an upgrade that Jonathan Martin decided to retire?
I think it's good
Upgrade.
for everybody,
Upgrade.
including him. Yeah, that
That's
that
addition by
it's the best for
subtraction.
him just to leave. Yeah, I
I,
don't have much.
I'm a terrible person. I was really hoping that we'd get to see Martin go up against the Dolphins in the practices and the games. I was really hoping I'd get to see that, but I guess he didn't want to go with it.
I had a saying once that I've heard people say, and what I would say about Jonathan Martin is the only good thing I can say about him is I don't have anything good to say about him. That's it.
That's an
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I got nothing for you. Nothing positive on that comments. I mean, on that issue. So yeah, I just won't say anything at all.
If this is the last time I have to hear Jonathan Martin's name, I would not be mad.
But it won't
this is
be.
it. Oh yeah, no, it always comes up. It always does.
It will always come back eventually.
Just like Nick Saban, yeah, everything.
And Drew Brees and all
Drew
that.
Brees,
Like,
Jeff Ireland.
we will
Well,
never.
I always hear about the every time I would listen to the Joe Rogan show, I always hear they always play the clip with Nick Saban like he's not going to be the coach at Alabama like every week. Like that's always the clip and like so yeah I can't get away from that either.
There's bitterness is abound in this fan base. You know what cures it?
Oh,
Winning.
for sure.
Winning
Yeah.
cures everything.
Yeah, and they got a
So-
good chance to do that.
Yeah, they gotta let their first teamers play a little longer, so maybe they can get 2 touchdowns instead of 1 to give their second and third teamers a little extra help where it counts, so that way they can actually notch a win. Because if we lose the second game as well as we losing the first game, people are gonna start getting mad. They're not gonna want to hear anymore about the first team did good. They're not gonna care. They're gonna stop caring. They just want to get a W on that board somewhere. Because people are so impatient right now. They have all these weapons. They want to see it all happening. They don't want to wait anymore. They want it now, fast, now. That's the whole mentality behind wanting to sign Evan Mathis. We're this close. Let's win right now. We don't care about next year. We don't care about 2 years from now.
We don't care about money.
We don't care about the next 10 years, but
Yeah.
win right now. That's why you go out and get Evan Mathis. And truthfully, there's so many people having different opinions on whether or not the salary cap is going to be okay. Some people are saying that since the Dolphins have like $20 million in dead money, we're going to get that back, and that's going to help us sign these guys. And then we're talking about how we're going to make Ndamukong Suh's signing bonus so we get some extra salary cap. So, like, there's always option B, option A, option B, option C, and sometimes you can even do more than one. But the same common denominator is that eventually it's going to catch up to you. You can't. I kind of find it funny. People want to build through the draft. They complain that we don't know how to draft players. We don't know how to develop players.
Exactly.
And then when it's time to draft and develop players, and you actually get good players, you don't want to play them because you want to sign every veteran that's out there.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways.
That's sort of what I said as well. Like you want to develop your players. Like you want to be able to like they don't want to pay a 34-year-old guard, that much money. Like even though Evan Mathis is great, I know he would do fine anywhere he goes. But the team just wants to develop these young players. You can't be mad at that. That's the whole purpose of the draft. Like that's what Green Bay does. That's what a lot of the great teams do. They develop their young players, and you just kind of, with free agency, you kind of pick up guys, here and there. But you don't build through free agency. You build through the draft. And I like what they're doing is sticking with Billy Turner, who doesn't have a lot of experience. And, you also have Jamil Douglas, who they drafted in the 4th round, who also doesn't have a lot of experience. So, yeah, I think that's what you should do is just build through the draft and just let your young players develop. The only way they're going to get better is if they play.
Isn't the whole Seattle Seahawks secondary a homegrown defense?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what you do. Like, you build through the draft and, and they don't necessarily like you pay the players when you have to, or you go out and get players when you exactly have to. Yeah, you have to have your homegrown talent. That's what the great teams do, and that's why Seattle and Green Bay I think are the best 2 teams in football, at least heading into the season anyway.
and that's why you got to respect those teams. They have homegrown talent. These guys
Yeah.
are not buying every free agent out there and hoping that it gets them a victory. These guys know how to develop talent, and we got to be willing to let them do the same. Jamar Taylor, Billy Turner, you got all these guys, and I mean, you got to look at it this way. You can't just ignore the fact that you need to have all this stuff happening. You need to get these guys play. You need to let them give it a shot. And until you do, you're not going to get anywhere because you can either develop and your players through the draft, or you can be the free agent winners every year. And you can't keep doing that.
And we seen it that way. We seen the Dolphins do that too. A couple of years ago, they did that when they signed Ellaby and Willer. And what did they get? What did they get the Dolphins? Nowhere really. So yeah, you have to develop. You have to be able to trust your draft system. I was gonna say farm system because I love baseball, but trust your draft system and just hope it works out and hit on your players.
Yeah, I mean, we went through what I've called the dark ages, and I mean, I had gotten to the point where I just assumed anybody drafted after the second round wasn't going to be on the team in a year or two, because when we went through the Saban years and all the way back to Wanstead, before Philbin, and actually more accurately until Dennis Hickey got there, how many mid to late round picks they weren't even close to making the team ever or contributing, and ever since Hickey has gotten here, we've been really picking up some pretty solid players into the middle rounds, and that makes an enormous difference when you suddenly can rely on your third or fourth round pick in a year or two to come in and be a starter versus a guy that is off the team. And so it really comes down to, can you have a guy that can acquire talent, and do you have a system in place to develop it? So I do feel like, despite people being impatient, and our record has still been, the 500 range, I feel the team as both an organization and just the base level of talent we've got in has improved dramatically over the last 3 years.
Yeah. On that subject, though, we got to say farewell to Arthur Lynch, fifth-round pick last year. Hate to see you go, buddy, but it just wasn't working out for you. One of Hickey's few mistakes that he's made so far in his time with the Dolphins.
You're talking as if Arthur Lynch is going to hear this show.
Yeah, right. Arthur Lynch has bigger and better things he's worried about. He's on Twitter discussing politics, and I wouldn't be surprised if he hangs him up and
I don't know if he does have better things to do. He apparently searches for himself on Twitter, because I didn't tag him. I did not tag him, but I mentioned his full name, and he came out and he said like something along the lines of, "Oh, really?" Something like that. So it's like,
yeah, I made him mad last year, Arthur Lynch. He really rubbed me the wrong way. Last year, I could just tell you, they were playing. It was early season, maybe early mid-season, and the Dolphins were playing, and I had Twitter up because sometimes I'll tweet back and forth during the game, and what I saw Lynch doing was he was tweeting about Georgia football during the Dolphins game, and it kind of irritated me, because I'm like, my God, you got drafted by the team, you're a Dolphin, and here you are during the game tweeting about Georgia football. And so I said some stuff to him and referenced that movie, the hockey movie Miracle, where there's a scene in that movie where he's like killing them endurance-wise, and he finally gets them to say, "What team do you play for?" And they finally figure out he's wanting them to say, "I play for the United States," because they keep saying their college team. And that's what I was referring to him for, saying, "Look, man, you don't play for Georgia anymore. You play for the Miami Dolphins." And it honestly, his whole time here, it just never felt like what he does on social media anyway, that he ever cared that he played for the Dolphins. That's what I would say.
All I would say is he had a tough camp. He dropped a lot of balls, and I was talking to Brandon Howard, who also a reporter for the Dolphins as well, who I often talk to, and we were just saying, like, who is going to be the Dolphins' third tight end. It looks like Jarrell Robinson's going to be the guy right now. But again, the rest they have in there, Stonebrenner and Tim Simic, they're kind of all the same. Like, they're not necessarily separating themselves from one another. But right now, it'll probably be Robinson. But yeah, Arthur Lynch really had a tough camp and really didn't contribute anything. And yeah, we knew this day was coming, and the Dolphins decided to cut him now as opposed to waiting another 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, it gives those guys a chance to get some more reps in and get a really good look at them. Because I wouldn't be shocked at all, Antoine, if you see them pick somebody up,
I wouldn't either.
The cuts run through, and maybe there's another tight end they're watching on another team right now that's got a surplus or something. So you may not even be there.
There are a lot of tight end heavy teams out there that'll probably be looking to cut a number 3. I've kind of been searching, just kind of doing random research, and I think the Oakland Raiders could be a surprise team. I know me and Professor Lou were talking today, but Michael Rivera is a guy who is listed second on the depth chart for the Raiders, behind recently signed Lee Smith, and they also got Clive Warford out of Miami. And Michael Rivera's kind of, he's been practicing because Warford's been a bit injured, but he could be the odd man out there. And I mean, I've loved Rivera in college, and I would gladly swipe him if Oakland decides to let him go.
I was going to say that, yeah, it's all dependent on if Wolford is 100% healthy. If he is, then, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But, yeah, Rivera's definitely a solid tight end, who can do a lot of different things, including block as well.
Yeah, there's another guy, Orson Charles, from the New Orleans Saints. I think it was you, Lewis, that said the Saints just signed Agnew. Is that some news I'm catching up on?
Yep, Michael Agnew is now in New Orleans State because the guy's like a wart. Yeah. You can't get rid of him. He keeps coming back somewhere.
Jeff Ireland, right there. That's what that is.
Jeff Ireland guy.
The Jeff Ireland effect.
Yeah, the live or die with Michael Agnew. Good luck.
Agnew runs like he has a piano on his back. He can't do it. I don't know why he keeps getting chance after chance after chance. They're trying to reignite that Missouri magic. He's from Missouri, right?
He went to the University of Missouri. Yeah,
he was impressive. He was really impressive as a seam threat in Missouri. I kind of was disappointed he worked out like he did because I was kind of high on him when they drafted him. I thought it was a good pick, but he just didn't. I mean, I don't know. As tight ends, it's such a hard position to judge because it's so hard to tell if they're doing the right things blocking and if they're reading defenses right in the routes. Because, I mean, last year one of my favorites was Gator Hoskins. I thought he looked pretty good in the preseason. And he even played a little bit in the regular season, but, he just didn't stick either. So it's hard to evaluate that position, I think, from the sideline.
Missouri tight ends haven't necessarily panned out in the NFL other than Kellen Winslow. That's the only one I can remember. Chase Kaufman was another one that got drafted, and he didn't necessarily pan out to be much of anything.
It must have been the original Kellen Winslow, you mean, right?
Yeah, the original. Yeah, the real. Yeah, the Kellen Winslow.
I don't mean the original. I meant senior because I knew junior played at.
Yeah, he went to Miami. Yeah, he went to Miami. Yeah.
I miss Gator so much. I don't know why he got cut. Is it just because he couldn't pass block? Because really, if that's all you're doing, then that's kind of why you don't have good players. You need sometimes you need somebody who can just be a really good weapon when you need one. And that's pretty much the only reason I can think of that Tim Samish is still on the team, because the dude is 6 feet 8 inches tall. How can you just throw if he shows even the slightest bit of athletic ability, all you need to do is throw the ball up there and nobody's gonna stop him. He's 6'8".
Yeah.
Like, how many football players out there on offense are that tall?
Yeah, not many. Not many at all. And if they are, you see them on the offensive line more than anything.
Right, yeah, usually like on the offensive line or on defense. Like, Jared Odrick was a beast. He's gigantic. But it's like Tim Samish makes him look short.
Yeah.
How many 6'8" weapons have really panned out, though, if you really think about it?
Well, how many 6'8" weapons have been there, period?
I know there's who's that guy for the Falcons? Levine Toyolo. I think he's about 6'8", but he didn't really pan out. Tight end. I think some people just might be too tall and a little uncoordinated once you get to a specific height. It kind of feels that
exactly.
way.
It's hard to get the pad level down.
LeBron 6'8".
So tall. It's great in the passing game. You're throwing balls out, but.
LeBron, I think would have been just fine in the NFL though. Yeah. 6'8".
He's kind of an athletic freak though. Yeah, you get into those.
LeBron will be in the Hall of Fame in the NFL too with that height. Woohoo!
And athleticism, yeah. He was the second in Mr. Ohio when he came out of high school. The first one was Maurice Corrett, who obviously went on to win a national championship with Ohio State. So that's how good LeBron was in football.
I wouldn't have minded LeBron if he wound up coming to be a Miami. I would be willing to forgive LeBron if he came back to play tight end, because I don't think anybody could deal with him.
I think he's making slightly too much money to come across the middle and get crushed by James Harrison. I think he'd rather just play basketball at this point.
I would too. I wouldn't want to get smushed like that either. Like, come on, give me a break. Like, these guys are risking their lives to make their millions, and I'll give them respect for that much. So we've been talking back and forth about camp, and we talked about the Chicago Bears. So we have about half an hour left before we cut off the show. So let's talk about the upcoming practices in Carolina. What happened? The story is that Ron Rivera called Joe Philbin, and they decided, hey, let's do a joint practice since the second game against each other is going to be you guys. So
Hooray.
they decided, okay, let's do a joint practice. Sure, why not? Let's go up there early and we'll practice up there in Spartanburg. So I can't remember the last time the Dolphins did something like this. I really don't. Does anybody know when the last time was that they did a joint practice? Because I know this isn't the first time they've ever done it.
No, it's been a few
Used to
years.
do them historically every year with Tampa Bay. That used to be a real common thing. I don't know why they got away from it, but I don't know why they don't do it so much anymore. But I'm a big fan of them, and I'm glad they're traveling to Spartanburg because Miami already starts the season with 2 away games, and so I would rather have them working on executing, away from home a little bit, even though it's not like it's an away game per se. At least there'll be mostly Panther fans there, and you kind of want them in that setting to prep.
Yeah, Joe Philbin said to us, like, this is the first time. I mean, he's been wanting to do this for a while. Like, he's been thinking about having a joint practice, and it just happened this year. And like you said, Ron Rivera called him, and they just kind of set it up. So yeah, I think it'll be good for both parties, especially the Dolphins, because you go up against the same players every day. So it'll be good to go up against somebody different, which you don't know their tendencies and their skill set and things of that nature. So I think it's going to be positive outlook coming out of that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys can do, especially against the formidable Carolina defense at home. So I'm really looking forward to see what comes out of the practice on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah. Did Philbin happen to bring up why he didn't set it up himself? Why did he have to wait for Ron Rivera to call him?
That I have we didn't ask him. We didn't go that far because even if we had asked that, Joe Philbin's not going to necessarily give you the answer to that. So
true enough.
Yeah. So
I can tell you, you very well might see some scuffles because you guys like to call them when you do those joint practices.
Joe Philbin has a rule like there's going to be no fighting, or he's going to get in the middle of the whole thing, like a whole scrimmage. Like if it's a fight, like he said, he's going to get involved. Yeah. This is his words. Like they've talked about not fighting up there and to be on their best behavior and how he will get involved like in the middle of the field if they decide to fight. So that's an image for you. That's an image for you.
That's funny. I'm just saying historically that when you do joint scrimmages like that, it's just because it's not your team and they're on the other team and you're competing against those guys. Tempers flare much quicker with a different team than your own guys. It just happens. I'm not expecting it to be dirty or anything. I'm just saying, don't be surprised if there's some scuffles if you're watching.
Yeah. And to answer your question, it's the first time they've done it in a decade. Tampa Bay was the last team. 2005.
A decade?
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
Man, that's giving up a big advantage that people have. Like not a whole lot of teams do this kind of stuff, but it only helps in the long run. You get tired and it's monotonous when you keep going against your own guys every single day, and you know what their tendencies are already. It kind of gets to be a memorization thing. Going up against different faces, though, it kind of gets you back out of that like if you spend
routine.
It's routine. It becomes like a robot thing. You're programmed to do it. You're programmed to do it this way against this person, and when you face against someone else, it's suddenly a whole lot different. So that's the only thing I would say is that's the only argument I would make against the whole Indomitians is going to make them better because they're training specifically to stop Cameron Wake or specifically to stop Ndamukong Suh. It's not like Wake is going to pretend to be Jared Allen or somebody like that in order to give the offensive linemen different looks. These guys play like who they are. So everybody has their own special way of doing things. Like Cameron Wake has his move, his swim move, and you got Mario Williams who does things his way, and you got Sheldon Richardson does things his way. Not everybody – it's not one size fits all. You kind of have to be ready to do anything. So that's why you need to give this different phase. That's why I'm so happy that they're going to do this in Carolina because now it's like, okay, so this guy does it this way. Okay, let me change up how I've been doing it, and it gives me a chance to learn a new technique to stop a new player. So that way you're more ready for it when the season begins.
Correct.
Yeah, and it
Correct.
really raises the competition level too for everybody. I mean, these guys are professionals. This is what they do, and they thrive on competition. You know, they need it. It's the more the better. I mean, going up for a guy like Brent Grimes, going up a guy like Kelvin Benjamin in practice all week long, it's going to do nothing but benefit him. Those young guys, Jamar Taylor. I mean, they need to see this action as much as possible, and it helps the coaching staff too, kind of evaluate where everybody is and. You know, it does nothing but good things for both teams.
I'm not particularly worried about Grimes, though. I don't think you used him as an example. I understand, but just to put it out there, I'm not really concerned about Grimes, and I find it really sad that we've gotten to a point where we want Brent to go just because of other off the field stuff. Because like it or not, he is the best corner that we have on this team, and he will be the next year and potentially even the year after that. Tony Lippett, people want to hear about Tony Lippett so much. He is a long-term project.
He's a project, yeah.
I'm not even sure he'll be even ready next year. He is a long wait. He is not going to be ready for a long time yet.
Yeah.
So I would hope that Brent Grimes actually stays next year because at least I know what I'm going to get from Grimes. Even if it's a little bit of a fall-off, it's still a lot better than anything else we have on the roster.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like he is a constant professional, nice guy, and yeah, he's a hell of a ball player. The best cornerback they've had since the you think about it, like the Surtain and Madison era. So yeah, he's really that good and really considered, I think, one of the best three corners in football.
And they desperately needed him when he came here. I mean, we had been through some years where we just didn't have good corners. So,
and I didn't expect this. Like I didn't expect him to be. I knew he was a really good corner in Atlanta, but he's exceeded my expectations. Like here in Miami.
And that's the thing. It's like people are so dismissive of him now, even though we know he's the best. And I believe me, I understand why it can get annoying, but that's what you had the mute button for. So you kind of get past the whole other stuff, and you remember, oh yeah, this is Brent Grimes, the guy who went to the Pro Bowl 2 straight years because he was just that good. And we need him to be sticking around, and that's why I'm so worried about the whole salary cap thing, because if Grimes winds up being a cap casualty next year, I fear for our secondary because there's nobody in there who can step in and replace that level of talent.
Nah,
Jared
cornerbacks, no.
Yeah,
Cornerbacks, no. Go ahead.
Defensive linemen are a lot easier to replace. Jared Odrick and Randy Starks, go stick Ndamukong Suh in there, and then you can switch out between Mosley and Phillips. Like, we're good. Like, I miss Odrick the person, but I'm not necessarily going to miss Odrick the player because of who we replaced him with. Grimes and the corners, that's a completely different story. Really good corners are a lot harder to find than big men up front.
Oh, absolutely.
What have you guys seen from Bobby McCain so far? I mean, we've only seen kind of what you guys have been tweeting and what we saw from the preseason game, but I want to know your thoughts kind of where Bobby McCain fits and what you expect out of him this year.
Well, for me, is Bobby McCain has been he's been a really aggressive cornerback. I like what he's doing in the slot. He's picked off Josh Freeman so many times I've lost count, and I find that really funny. Sometimes it looks like Freeman is actually trying to throw to Bobby McCain. That's when I tweet out stuff like,
man.
Josh, you need to throw to the white jerseys, not the aqua ones, because Bobby's the one in aqua. So it's like you wonder if Josh Freeman is colorblind, but I digress. So Bobby has been a really impressive guy. I really like what he's bringing to the table. And if anybody is going to make Will Davis lose his roster spot, it's probably him because he plays kind of with that same aggressive mentality. I want to go for the pick. I want to make the big play, except that he is a little smoother when it comes to the other stuff. At least he has the potential to be smoother when it comes to the other stuff. It's going to be a while yet before I'm ready. I want to see him get a year of development before we try to get him in there a lot more, but he could contribute right now this year, I think.
I agree.
I think he's shown enough right now that he's done too well to put him on the practice squad. Somebody will grab him right away. So I think McCain he'll play limited in the regular season. I think he's going to, unless somebody gets hurt, that'll change everything. But I suspect they're grooming him to be the slot for, possibly as soon as next year, or definitely if Bryce McCain got hurt or Jamar Taylor got hurt, I think there's a real strong possibility they would just slide Bryce McCain out to cover for Taylor and bring McCain in the slot. And I'm hoping they do that. I hope they have a formation because I want to watch these commentators when you have Bryce McCain and Bobby McCain in the secondary and Chris McCain at linebacker trying to call that game because that's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny. Like, which McCain is this? Do you know anymore?
McCain tips the ball and it's picked off by McCain.
Like, oh wow, he's really good. Like, oh wait, no, wouldn't it be funny if Bobby McCain's the one who tipped the ball and then Bryce McCain made the pick? Because then you'd have to be like, wait, they're both B McCain. Which is it?
Yeah, and then you know those commentators never know the teams. They're just showing up and they get the list of players and stuff. So they'll be screwing them up left and right, trying to keep them straight. So it'll be fun.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be entertaining.
I was screwing them up in the preseason game trying to get them right, and I still got to figure out the numbers. I know you guys are there pretty much every day figuring out the jersey numbers, but I have no idea what number Bobby McCain is, Bryce McCain. So kind of this Chicago Bears game was my first taste of getting the McCain treatment.
Yeah, I've been watching every day. I'm out there melting, and Antoine's under the nice, cool.
Antoine living large.
The giant water bottles that are ice cold.
It's good living. It's good living.
So yeah, I'm gonna ask you guys this. We get off topic so much on this show. We have fun. So I'm gonna ask you guys this. What are you expecting to see when the Carolina Panthers game comes on? What are you expecting to see? Not necessarily what you're hoping to see. What are you expecting to see? And let's be honest.
I'm expecting to see the defensive line completely dominate again. I mean, I'm talking everyone from Cam Wake, Ndamukong Suh, Olivier Vernon on the other side. I want to see Jordan Phillips continue to progress. I want to see him beat his man. I want to see him beat double teams, which is something he didn't do versus the Chicago Bears. But I want to see him use his big body and use his arms a little better. And I'm also looking for the linebackers to fill the holes. So I want to see a lot of the second-team guys, Mike Hull, Jeff Luke, Zach Vigil. I want to see Spencer Pasinger for once. I didn't really see him on tape at all versus the Bears. So mostly defensive stuff I'm looking for.
To answer your question, Spencer Pasinger was pretty much the whole way.
Yeah, he looked like it. I mean, I saw his number out there, but he wasn't doing anything. So.
How about you, definitely?
I was gonna say, yeah, I expect to see. The offensive line play relatively well last week. I expect a little bit more of a challenge, especially with the Panthers having a very formidable defense. But I expect some struggles here and there, and Tannehill to get a little bit more pressure while he's in there. Obviously, they're going to be in there a little bit longer. I assume probably close to the first quarter. So I expected a little bit of more struggle that you had against Chicago. But then again, they didn't play long enough to have that kind of adversity. But you kind of want to see the adversity now as opposed to just waiting until the regular season starts. But yeah, I expect to see a little bit of pressure get to them and see how Tannehill and the other guys react to it. And also expect to see Rashard Matthews continue to have a great summer, which I think he's just been outstanding. I don't think anybody's talked about that yet. Like, he's just been, really stepped up his game, and yeah, you can kind of see why he wanted to try to go somewhere else because the Dolphins wide receiver core is so deep. But yeah, he's with the injuries they've had, he's really gotten an opportunity to shine and just done an outstanding job. So I expect to see more balls get thrown his way.
Chad?
I kind of, as alluded to earlier, I'm going to be watching the bubble players close. Matt Hazel, Michael Preston. Right now, they're losing ground quickly to Rashard Matthews, and if they don't do something quickly, I think I don't know what the eligibility standards are for the practice squad for those guys, but there's no way the Dolphins are going to be able to keep more than 5 receivers total. And so I think
it's already too late if you're going to do that, Chad, because Rashard Matthews has looked like the best wide receiver on the team all camp.
Well, I think he's definitely stepping up. So, but my point being is, I'm Hazel and Preston, I'm curious to see if they're going to respond, what they're going to do. Damian Williams, I think, has established himself as the number 2 running back, so I'm curious to see what LaMichael James does, how he's going to be in there. And obviously be watching the guard play again because everybody's, concerned about that. We just talked about it when we watching Bobby McCain close. I think he's ahead of Will Davis right now, and I think they're kind of competing for roster spots. And more than anything, I want to see some pressure kicks. I want to see Caleb Sturgis have to kick a 48-yard field goal and his job be on the line for it. I want to see how well he does under pressure. So that's a concern of mine. That I'm not concerned about Sturgis's legs. I'm concerned about his psyche. Is he somebody that when we get into Game 17 and the playoffs are on the line and he's got to hit a 48-yard field goal, is he going to do it or is he going to blow our season? So
he seemed pretty frustrated with himself today.
Yeah, I don't know if mentally he's going to be able to handle the job, and so I'm concerned that they're not really doing anything about the kicking position, and so the only way we can really evaluate that is he has to kick some higher difficulty kicks with pressure, and I'm not talking about over 50-yarders. I'm talking about between 45 and 50. That's a kick I'm expecting an NFL kicker to hit, in the 90% range. And he hasn't been doing that, and so that's what I want to see in this game is maybe get a few situations where he knows it's extremely important he makes it.
Yeah, but I think both kickers have been really inconsistent in camp. There's days where Franks does a good job, and then you see him the next day, and he's kind of missing some kicks, those intermediate kicks as you talked about. So yeah, and obviously Sturgis, we've seen him. He's been, statistically one of the worst kickers as far as accuracy in the NFL the past couple of years. So you definitely, you need somebody that's going to be able to hit those on a consistent basis, the 45-yarders, especially with that extra point being moved back. Like, you definitely, you need to hit that now. So you want to have a consistent kicker. So it's, people ask me about the kicking situation. I'm kind of like, I don't know. Some people want Franks to be in there, but, I think it's still Sturgis' job to lose. Whether he loses it or not, it's up to him.
Here's what I hope to see. I hope to see Tannehill stepping up as usual and making more plays, doing what he's been doing all camp long. This is the most consistent. Like, the one complaint that people have been having against Tannehill in camps, besides the whole deep ball thing, and I don't want to get into that today. I'm tired of talking about the deep ball. What they've been talking about is his lack of consistency. It'll be like one day he does really good, and the next day he does really bad, and that kind of thing is what gets on people's nerves. This year, there hasn't really been a day where Tannehill has been bad. Like, every practice has shown that Tannehill has majorly improved. His footwork has gotten so much better. His deep ball has gotten so much better. And I did promise that I wasn't going to credit Tannehill for being better because I wanted to credit his weapons instead, fitting what he does. But, guys, it's gotten to the point where I can't just say it's that. Tannehill himself has improved, not just the weapons around him to make him look better. That has a lot to do with it, I'm sure, but he has made a stride in his game. His footwork looks a lot better. His pocket presence seems better. Everything about his game seems to have improved, and it's not just his weapons like I thought it would be, because a lot of times he'll be dealing with subpar weapons like Matt Hazel, and then you got Michael James coming out of the backfield, and admittedly he's done well in camp, but up until right now, because whatever voodoo he's been using is gone now, he can't keep it up. So it hasn't always been a matter of who's he throwing it to. He's had to throw to meh people before, and he's still doing good. He's placing it right where it needs to be. He knows where it needs to be. He gets it there on time. So I have to take back what I said. I'm gonna have to credit Tannehill for getting a lot better. It's not just the weapons around him. He himself has improved dramatically. What do I expect to see in Carolina? I honestly expect him to struggle a little bit, but only because of the fact that, remember that Carolina's defense is a really good defense, and this is going to be the first time that Tannehill's actually going to be in trouble and actually in danger of getting hit. Because in camp, you don't hit the quarterback. Like, that's off limits. That's what the red jersey is all about. No touchy. Off limits. There is no off limits in the preseason game. So,
not at all.
Against the Panthers defense, I'm wondering if he's going to be able to respond to
I don't even care if he does, Lewis. I would rather maybe see him play a series. I don't even care to see Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake, Brent Grimes, or Ryan Tannehill much at all. Where I want to see him is screwing around on the sidelines, not getting hurt. I want to see Matt Moore, step up. I want to see Jordan Phillips take Ndamukong Suh and see how he does against higher level. I want to see Terrence Fede take Cameron Wake's spot a little bit and see how he's been really looking strong.
Well, Fide's been lining up on Vernon's side for most of the.
Well, either way, yeah. But I want to see Fede get some extended action against first team competition because he's, next year, they may need him to be playing a much more prominent role, and so I want to see how those guys hold up. And it's just you look around the league, and that's a critical thing right now is injuries. And Miami's been very fortunate; they haven't had any critical injuries, and so I want to be really careful with the Pro Bowl level players because Brent Grimes and Sue and Wake and those guys, they don't need a lot of reps at all against the Panthers. They're not going to gain much, and so I just would be very, very careful with those guys, I guess.
Yeah, I want to see a lot of things that we don't talk about is the coaching when it comes to these preseason games. I kind of want to see Bill Lazor utilize the running backs more. They didn't really get an opportunity in the first game versus the Bears, but with the threat of a good defensive line against our mediocre offensive line, I want to see the screen game, and I want to see kind of some check downs and some different plays that we won't usually see, but I want to see how they approach a good defensive line here in the preseason, and I want to see LaMichael James really step it up. I want to see him earn a spot on the team.
I'm skeptical about him now.
He's changing course, huh?
He's got his spot pretty well locked down, I think, unless they were to bring in somebody new. But he'll bring someone new.
Yeah, they could. He'll be the number 3 back as of right now, and I think he'll be doing the majority of the return game. I think that's where he's really gonna.
Yeah, I don't think he's safe though at all. I mean, they're trying out.
If somebody frees up, it's looking good, or if Ajayi starts to pick up the speed of the game and his assignments and he gets fully healthy, he could still make a late push for that 3rd spot. They may just decide we're not going to keep a 4th running back at all because you look at the talent level they have in the secondary and on the defensive line, it may make more sense just to go thin at running back, and because they're not going to cut Ajayi. He's got way too much upside. Even though I don't expect he's going to be playing a lot, they're not going to cut him, and so he'll be those 3 backs, Damian Williams, Lamar Miller, and Ajayi are safe. So you could be right. Maybe they'll decide to work in a different guy into that return game, and if that were the case, then James would suddenly be more on the bubble than you might think.
Antoine, has there been any explanation as to why Kenny Stills is lining up out there? Is it a matter? Is it like a Brent Grimes thing where he has ADHD and he needs to be doing something or he gets bored, or is he actually out there to return?
They just want to put players in different roles. That's what Joe Philbin has told us, and that's necessarily mean they're going to use him, in that role. They're just putting them out there to see what they can do. Same with what they do with Brett Grimes, but. Yeah, they just trying to get a feel of who's good at that position and who's not. So it might be it's a possible option, but it's nothing definitive. Joe Philbin's not going to give anything away anyway, but it's nothing definitive as far as say.
Antoine, anybody is an option, but nobody's taking the whole Brent Grimes returning thing seriously. Come on.
Of course. Like, I tweeted that out the other day, and someone's like, get him away from back there. That's exactly what somebody was telling. I was like, dude, just calm down. I was like. It's not that serious. He's not gonna return gigs. Relax.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder. Why are you out there then? Why are you wasting everybody's time?
In all caps. All caps. This guy was like, get him from back there. He doesn't need to be back there. I'm like, just relax. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just something that Philbin does. He just rotates players, and
because what the heck.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, there are times though that comes into play. I mean. I've seen teams do this where you get into maybe a playoff caliber game, or it's going to decide the playoffs, and you got a critical punt coming in the game. Well, do you want it to be Brent Grimes or maybe Jarvis Landry returning that punt when it's a critical, not the return, but to actually catch that ball is so critical, or would you rather have LaMichael James doing it? And so I think that's where there are, situations where you might want Brent Grimes being your punt returner, not your every down punt returner. But
no, for me, no, never, never, Chad, never. Like I said, we need that cornerback. If Grimes gets hurt for whatever reason, oh, we're in trouble.
Yeah, it Twitter would blow up. Like it would just be chaos. Like if that would have happened. But I think that they're giving James every opportunity to have to win the job. And he admittedly, Luis was there. He admittedly said he didn't play well, the other day, and he's right. Like he didn't play well on Thursday night, and that's kind of what it boils down to. He knows he needs to play better, and I'm sure he's gonna try to put on a good performance on Saturday night.
Luis Delmas.
Oh no.
Mike.
No. I was saying you were there like that day.
Oh,
when he was saying,
I was like, who's Luis? I don't know.
Yeah, yourself like was there like on Saturday when he said he didn't play necessarily very well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I should have made that a little bit more clear. But yeah,
like Lewis. I was like,
yeah.
I understand the confusion. A lot of people do that. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we about covered everything, guys. Let's see. The Chicago Bears training camp. We talked about the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I think that's everything. And we've pretty much hit an hour and a half. So and tomorrow I gotta get up. We both gotta get up. You and me, Antoine. We gotta get up tomorrow and get all prepped and preened up for the Miami Dolphins kickoff luncheon tomorrow.
Yeah, hey, Antoine, thanks for coming on the show, by the way. It's always a pleasure to have you. So if anybody's not following him on Twitter, he's an excellent follow for up-to-date news on the Dolphins.
And he's an excellent follow. He's an excellent follow, period. He's funny.
I'm just saying that because I'm here. Like, it has nothing to do with...
but come on. Like, we would really do that to you.
I follow you all the time. Your stuff's good. So, yeah, we appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
You earned your status, man.
You
fought your way up there.
Right. I tried, but thank you guys for having me on, and I look forward to coming back when the season actually starts, so we can talk about some real games here.
Yeah, I understand how that is. All right, Antoine. See you tomorrow, man.
I take it easy.
So that was Antoine Staley of the Pro Player Insiders. He's the Miami Dolphins reporter for them. You can follow him at Antoine Staley, and guys, I think we're going to sign off for tonight. It's been a great show. I'm glad to be back, and truthfully, I'm really looking forward to what's going to be happening at Carolina. I can't wait to get up there. I can't wait to meet up with a bunch of my friends. Gonna have some good times. We're gonna watch the Dolphins practice, and hopefully we're gonna see some stuff that I like, and hopefully we're not gonna see a whole lot of stuff I don't like Dallas Thomas sucking up a storm again. Because if Dallas Thomas decides he wants to be good all of a sudden, I don't have a problem with it. Like, by all means, go ahead and become the next Evan Mathis. Suck for a couple of years and then ball out. I'm good with that. I don't have a problem with that. Then we don't need Evan Mathis because we have Evan Mathis 2.0.
I can't say I'm confident that Dallas Thomas is Evan Mathis 2.0, but
we didn't think Evan Mathis would be Evan Mathis. That's why we cut him.
Well, that's true, but I think Dallas Thomas is a good guy, so I hope he does good for him. I think he's busting his butt to try to get there.
I agree with that, and I mean, hey, he's said it, he's shown it. It's not a matter of lack of effort. I can say that much safely. It's just that he hasn't performed to the best of his ability.
He just can't do it. He just can't do it.
You're not buying it.
We've all seen it.
You're not buying it at all, Jeff. You're not.
I'm not buying it.
I'm pulling a whole bunch of BC out there.
Why he still has a job on this team? It's beyond me. I don't know.
Starting job. That's the crazy thing.
A starting job in the NFL.
I think what he gets paid, he'd be all right, as a backup guard. But it does blow my mind they're still giving him all the reps in the starting lineup. But anyway, I'm not, like I said, I personally think he's individually he's an all right guy. Just he's limited physically. He's not that stout of a guard. So
isn't that always the case? We like the guy, but the player is always enough to wipe out the whole guy issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, so we're going to call it a night. It's been a great show. We made it to an hour and a half as usual, so, hey, I guess we can say that we filled in our time slot. So, hey, this is what we do. It helps when we get off topic a lot. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun to ramble about these Dolphins. This is it's going to be a good season. It's going to be a lot to talk about, so.
Yeah, we're what's the Ramblin' Man? I can't do the Ramblin' Man. I did the Arnold a few weeks ago, but I don't think I can do Ramblin' Man.
We'll do the Arnold one more time then.
You want me to do Arnold one more time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining the PhinManiacs live podcast. Until next week, we will say goodbye for Chad Ronnenbaum and Jeff Hyde.
Yeah.
Never gets old. It's great.
See you guys. Thank you.
Good night.